Well, Donald Trump and Mike Johnson, Republicans, and even people in the media are joining in the pile-on of Chuck Schumer as Americans continue to increasingly blame Democrats for the government shutdown. I hope it was worth it to get your little No Kings March this weekend. We're going to show you all the great video of Trump just finishing off Schumer once and for all. We want to show you some highlights from the Attorney General's debate yesterday in Virginia. You know, Jay Jones, the guy who likes to fantasize about murdering Republicans. Well, he got murdered on stage, rhetorically speaking, of course. And his only response, get Trump. I sure hope that doesn't work. Also, John Bolton, indicted, had to turn himself in. We kind of got a perp walk today, guys. And if he was hoping that Democrats and the media were going to come to his rescue, he better hope for something else, because he ain't getting it. It's ugly. It's bad for John Bolton. Looks like he's going to be in an orange jumpsuit. We'll give you all the details and hear from John Bolton himself coming up right now. We are brought to you by The Lion. My name is Larry O'Connor. You can call me Larry. Give our video a like here and boost us into the weekend with a huge Friday. We would really appreciate it. The more you give us the thumbs up and like on the platform you're watching, the more people are attracted to it. And it's right in front of the people who like this kind of news, information, and analysis. And then you won't be alone there in the live chat or in the comments section if you're watching on demand. We really appreciate all the support you've been giving us all week. Tell a friend, share a link, and don't forget to subscribe. If you care about staying sharp and informed, I want you to make The Lion part of your daily routine. It's published by the Herzog Foundation. The Lion covers the headlines that matter, from politics and policy to culture and faith, you know, all the important things in life, all through a common sense, values-driven lens. It's the kind of journalism that goes beyond the surface, offering the context and clarity today's news demands. Whether you're tracking big national stories or you want to know what's happening in schools, state houses, and communities across the country, The Lion delivers smart, well-sourced reporting that you're not going to find anywhere else. So go to readlion.com to catch up on the latest must-read stories. And while you're there, sign up for The Lion's daily and weekly newsletters. That's readlion.com, news that informs and respects your point of view. Just about an hour ago, Speaker Mike Johnson gave his daily press conference, as he's done during this government shutdown caused by the Democrats. And I think maybe people in the Speaker's office or the Speaker himself, who we're big fans of, watched our show yesterday, because as we kept repeating and over again, Schumer is toast. Schumer is the problem. Schumer is doing this to try to salvage his pathetic, lamentable political career, and it ain't working. Schumer is done. Mike Johnson picked it up from there. Here's the Speaker.
The fight is absurd. Senator, you've been in office for 44 years. You've been in Congress longer than that, but you've been in Congress for 44 years, and everybody clearly understands what's going on. You're holding the entire country hostage to protect your own political career. I mean, no one can deny that. And what you're doing is absurd. You're demanding $1.5 trillion new spending instead of the clean, totally nonpartisan CR that you yourself voted for just 7 months ago. The whole charade is obvious. And I also want to point out the irony that is equally clear. Okay? As much as we disagree with Schumer and the Senate Democrats and all of that's going to happen tomorrow, not a single person is going to be standing in their way of their right to exercise, assemble, and protest peacefully. That alone is a profound testament to the strength of our republic, to the beauty of America. They are decrying the country that allows them to engage in this activity. And the last time I checked, Americans have more freedom right now to express themselves and speak their minds after Republicans took over and ended the years of having millions of Americans' voices systematically silenced during the COVID pandemic years and the left's cancel culture. It is the Republicans that restored your right to share and speak your mind.
Yeah, well said. And nice job, actually, following up on this stupid demonstration they're going to have over the weekend. Let me just ask you about this No Kings thing, by the way. Who thinks that it'll be completely nonviolent? Who thinks that there won't be, Antifa on the periphery vandalizing monuments or vandalizing federal buildings, or at least attempting to do so before the National Guard or law enforcement corral them? How many believe that we won't see foreign flags flying on the National Mall during this protest? How many believe that we're going to see illegal immigrants standing on the stage or protesting. Did you know that one of the participating sponsoring organizations of the No Kings protest is literally the Communist Party of America? Did you know that? No, it's not getting a whole lot of attention. That's why you watch our show. Look it up. One of the sponsoring organizations of the No Kings rally that all the Democrats are embracing and telling all of their screaming minions out there to donate to and subscribe to and give your email address to so you can get on a mailing list. Find out whose mailing list you're going to be on. It's the Communist Party of America. When you become a sponsoring organization to an event like this, one of the trade-offs is you get the mailing list. Communists. That's your Democrat Party today. President Trump is also joining in. Oh, forget it. He's leading the pile on of Chuck Schumer. He appeared with Maria Bartiromo, the money honey, on Fox Business and was asked about Chuck Schumer and the shutdown.
Mr. President, do you think that the government shutdown is all about this rally that's happening this weekend, the No Kings rally?
No, I mean, some people say they want to delay it for the king. This is
more
not a
than
king.
that.
You know, they're referring to me as a king. I'm not a king.
Right. No, but just so that Chuck Schumer could go and say, I'm fighting Trump.
Yeah, well, Chuck is, at the end of the line. He's being beaten by everybody that they poll against him. And, what he did is he did the right thing a couple of years ago on something like this. And he got hurt by his party. And it doesn't, I don't think it matters to him. I think he's just so dead that he'll do anything. I think they could just stay out forever. I mean, to be honest with you. Now, what we're doing is we're cutting Democrat programs that we didn't want because, they made one mistake. They didn't realize that gives me the right to cut programs that Republicans never wanted, giveaways, welfare programs, et cetera. And we're doing that, and we're cutting them permanently. We're cutting a $20 billion project that Schumer fought for 15 years to get. And I'm cutting the project. The project is going to be dead. It's pretty much dead right now.
Yeah, people who watch this show know that. In fact, the weekend before the government shutdown, or that Friday, I informed you, watch how the executive branch gets power during a shutdown. Yeah, shutdowns suck. And people go on furlough, and the military has to work without pay, and law enforcement for that matter. And you've got contractors who work with various entities of the government, mostly in the military, who get laid off and don't get any money. It's terrible. I'm not rooting for a shutdown. But just understand something. If you think that Doge was bad, if you think that the government, shouldn't be cut, if you think that Donald Trump shouldn't have authoritarian executive powers that just lets him take a machete to the federal government and the workforce, then the last thing you want to do is have a government shutdown. Because at this moment, when Congress is not appropriating, that means the executive branch can use their discretion. And, well, Donald Trump just explained what that discretion is looking like. Chuck Schumer, for his part, well, let's watch how strong a leader Chuck Schumer is. My brother here is fighting the fight of the 90s, thinking that it's still the way things operate in Washington, that Chuck and the other leader of the Senate get into a back room and work out a deal and try to put one over on the rest of us. That's not how we play this game anymore, Chuck. The rules have changed, but Chuck still thinks he's playing the 1990s Washington, D.C. political game. Watch.
Look, we're not negotiating in public, plain and simple. And Leader Thune has not come to me with any proposal at this point. Look, we're not
negotiating in public. Boy, nothing screams transparency, and we have nothing to hide. And this is the people's government. We represent you, and we want you to participate in what's going on. Than saying, we're not going to do this in public. I want to get behind closed doors and talk about tone deaf. This is why I say he's done. His career is over. It's history. He peaked in 2003, which is, well, who among us? Thune, for his part, he responded to that and said, I'm not sure how much clearer I can be, but let me give it a try. I'm willing to sit down with Democrats to discuss the growing unaffordability and unsustainability of Obamacare, which, may I pause here to remind, it's like they're all watching the show and picking up our pointers on how to communicate these issues. Thank you. Everyone who says, oh, we need to fix healthcare because it's become so expensive. Good. Every time Republicans address that, remind them that it's because of Obamacare. The Democrats are demanding that tax dollars go to fix the system that they broke. And the money goes to the insurance companies that they got in bed with. So good for you. Yes, we want to discuss the growing unaffordability and unsustainability of Obamacare. It's a system they created. I'm happy to hear them out. I'm even willing to give them a vote today, tomorrow, next week, you name it. But there's one condition: end the Schumer shutdown. We demand Republicans join us at the table to help fix Obamacare. Okay, we'll do that. Just end the shutdown. Don't hold us hostage, and you'll get what you want. Thune then says, I will not negotiate under hostage conditions, nor will I pay a ransom, period. Let me explain what's going on here and why this is so good for Republicans right now. But please take a breath. I know it's going to look crazy with the No Kings rally, and I know that your left-wing friends on Facebook are going to have lots of things to share, and they're going to be going nuts. Take a breath here. Republicans are in a really good place on this for multiple reasons. Number one, they have stayed consistent on their message, which is the government is shut down because Democrats refused to vote to continue funding it. We Republicans are responsible. We want to fund the government. Democrats say no. Number two, they're saying no because they want tax dollars to subsidize health insurance so that they can provide free health care to illegal immigrants. That is true. It is 100% true. As much as George Stephanopoulos and Jake Tapper try to pretend like it's not, the American people see in black and white exactly what the Democrats have been demanding and what states like Gavin Newsom's California and Pritzker's Illinois and Hochul's New York have done with their state Medicaid that is funded in part by federal dollars. They know that they're providing health insurance and health care for illegal immigrants. That's a strong message. The Democrats are shutting down the government because they want to help illegal immigrants. And number three, Republicans have a very strong position on this because the polls are swinging their way. Here's the Hill today. Poll finds more people are starting to blame Democrats for the shutdown. Yes, at the very beginning, immediately, the uninformed public said, what? Trump's in the White House, Republicans have the Congress, and the government shut down. It must be their fault. And then over the last couple of weeks, the message that the Republicans have been reiterating over and over again, and they keep repeating it, it's a really simple message, and that's why it works in their favor. See, Democrats, they have to have AOC and Bernie Sanders do a 1-hour town hall on CNN, and it's still incomprehensible. Where all Republicans have to do is say, we want the government open, and we agree with Democrats that they broke health insurance. We'd be happy to talk to them about it. All they've got to do is vote yes to open the government, period. And we're not budging. And they have not changed their message one iota. So if you look at the recent poll from YouGov The Economist, 39% now blame Republicans, 33% blame Democrats. And as that gap gets closer and closer, Democrats are in an untenuous position. There's another thing working in favor of the Republicans. They've got Donald Trump, Mike Johnson, and J.D. Vance as their spokespeople on this thing. Democrats have Hakeem Jeffries without the sombrero and Chuck Schumer. It's not even close. Even some of their more effective communicators, like Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona, well, look what happened to him this morning on CNBC.
Only one person in the Democratic Party has broken with the ranks. It's like, I don't understand it. It hasn't been working well for Democrats with Mamdani.
This is pretty simple. The government does not have to be shut down. It doesn't have to be shut down. We can
Senator,
fix this here in a matter of just a couple days. I mean, this could be easily solved by sitting down at the table.
To get past 60, you need some Democrats to reopen that's what's going to happen, Senator. You close the government down because you want $1.5 trillion for all these different things that Schumer wants. It's obvious to everyone, although, maybe you can convince the public that it's the Republicans, but it's not. And only one person in the Democratic Party has broken with the ranks. It's like, I don't understand it. It hasn't been working well for Democrats with Mamdani.
This is pretty simple. the government does not have to be shut down. It doesn't.
Yeah. So it didn't end well for Mr. Kelly there when Joe Kernan from CNBC knows how to push back and bring the facts to the table. And again, when you've got to dance around and pretend the government doesn't have to be shut down, it's really simple. Let's open it up. Okay, then open it up. We're waiting for your vote, dude. Did I mention Hakeem Jeffries? Here, let me tell you how bad it is right now for Democrats. When Hakeem Jeffries is one of their top spokespeople, and he has the opportunity to go on the air and talk about the government shutdown, and he wants to talk about anything but the government shutdown. Watch him go on this unhinged rant against the White House spokesperson, Caroline Leavitt, because Caroline Leavitt used some flamboyant rhetoric on a media hit yesterday. Watch.
Matter of deep concern. Like, we've already seen a rise in political violence and hatred in America. And then you've got swastikas apparently appearing in the offices of Republican members of Congress. You've got young Republicans engaging in the most anti-Semitic and racist speech possible. Like, this is apparently who many of these people are. They are ripping the sheets off in plain view of the American people. Their words, their actions, revealing themselves in so many different ways. And then you got Caroline Leavitt, who's sick, she's out of control. And I'm not sure whether she's just demented, ignorant, a stone cold liar, or all of the above. But the notion that an official White House spokesperson would say that the Democratic Party consists of terrorists, violent criminals, and undocumented immigrants, this makes no sense.
Well, to be fair, she said that the Democrats' base is Hamas terrorists, violent criminals, and undocumented immigrants. She said illegal immigrants. And listen, she could be wrong about that. It's a really simple thing for Democrats to prove. Just start advocating policies and positions that run opposed to the interests of Hamas terrorists, illegal immigrants, and violent criminals. See, the problem is all their policies and their positions work in favor of those three groups. So forgive us for extrapolating and reaching the conclusion that clearly you're trying to please your base, because that's what your policies do. He's absolutely unhinged here with his rhetoric. They're taking the sheets off. Here's the thing. If you're winning the argument about the government shutdown, you don't need to stand in front of cameras and call your opponents racists and Klansmen. When you do that, when you say that they've got swastikas and that they're Nazis, it's an indication you're losing. Do you know how I know that? Because we've seen it for a decade now. And he's still in the minority in the House of Representatives.
That this is what the American people are getting from the Trump administration in the middle of a shutdown. So their actions continue to speak for themselves, which is why they're on the wrong side of public sentiment.
Yeah, sure they are. Sure they are. Did you notice how he didn't talk about Obamacare, health insurance, government shutdown, how the military isn't getting paid, and all the usual sob stories you hear during a government shutdown? They got no message. And so now they're going to have their big No Kings rally. And watch, at the rally this Sunday, they won't talk much about the government shutdown at all. It'll be Orange Man bad. It's all they know. It's all they've been able to say for 10 years. I have some advice for Hakeem Jeffries. This was not one of his best public appearances this morning. He is flailing. He is going down. He's like underwater right now, and he's gasping for air. And I want to help him out here because a couple of weeks ago, he gave a much better media appearance that I thought was truly effective. I want to remind you of it here. This is the Hakeem Jeffries that I know and love.
I am not even Mexican. I don't know why President Trump keeps saying that shit. He needs to say it to my face, Holmes. And while we're at it, I'm getting really tired of all that dollar store Obama shit. It's getting old, homie. My name is not Dollar Store Obama. Okay, pendejo? Órale! Arriba! Arriba!
That might be ethnically insensitive. I'm not sure. Let me know in the chat or in the comment section down below. Was that funny, or was that ethnically insensitive? Or was it both? Meanwhile, check this out. This is Catherine Clark. She's the Democrat whip. She is leading the charge to make sure that Democrats in Congress stay in line, shoulder to shoulder, and on message, voting against opening up the government. This is the woman who made sure the votes were there to shut down the government. Now watch.
Can you roll that clip for us, Larry?
Oh, so sorry. Thank you. Here we go.
Now that we're starting to see some of those real world effects from the shutdown, though, I mean, are people saying, wait a minute, we understand the healthcare argument, but I'm not getting a paycheck now?
Yeah, I mean, shutdowns are terrible.
And but are they criticizing your side, the Republican side, a pox on all your houses, saying, I need that paycheck, I'm a federal worker?
You know, we are seeing that, of course, families that are all of a sudden relying on, you know, a paycheck for the work they do from the federal government, when that doesn't come, that's an incredible hardship.
She has literally brought on that hardship. She and her party. It's the meme of the guy who shoots the dude in the chair. That's what this is. It's awful. These things are terrible. Families are feeling horrible hardships that we have this shutdown. Okay. Do you want it to stop? Yes, we do. So why do you keep voting no on a bill that's like one line long that says keep funding the government at the level that Joe Biden's administration funded the government? I know you're familiar with this bill. Ma'am, it's the same bill you and your colleagues have voted on in favor of 13 times. In fact, you just did it in March. What's different today? What's different today? Democrats need to show their base that they're fighting. They're fighting for Hamas terrorists. They're fighting for illegal aliens. They're fighting for violent criminals. They're fighting all right. That's the latest update. There's no leadership over on that side of the equation, none at all. And I say by a week from today, next Friday, when we meet here again, it'll be all over. They've lost. They've lost miserably. If you care about the direction of this country, and I know you do, you need to be reading The Lion. It's published by the Herzog Foundation, the national leader in Christian education. The Lion is an award-winning news site delivering sharp, timely reporting on what's really happening in America's schools, culture, and government. It's the kind of journalism that cuts through the noise and gives you the full picture, especially when it comes to the growing movement toward Christ-centered education. But The Lion goes beyond classrooms. It covers parenting, faith, freedom, and the cultural battles shaping our future. Just like its namesake, The Lion embodies strength and courage, standing firm in a landscape where too many have surrendered our children's future to the left's ideology. And by the way, The Lion is plugged in. You know, there's sometimes the new media seat in the briefing room in the White House and on Air Force One. Go to readlion.com. That's readlion.com. Sign up for the daily or weekly newsletter so you never miss a headline. Readlion.com. Clarity, courage, and news that keeps you informed and equipped. All right, check out the moment yesterday, live in real time, when President Donald Trump learned that John Bolton had been indicted.
Just indicted by a grand jury in Maryland. Do you have a reaction to that?
I didn't know that. You told me for the first time, but I think he's, a bad person. I think he's a bad guy. Yeah, he's a bad guy. It's too bad, but that's the way it goes.
The case against him?
That's the way it goes, right? That's the way it goes. Will I what?
Have you reviewed the case against him?
No, I haven't. But I just think he's a bad person. Okay, anybody else?
Sort of evokes the Ruth Bader Ginsburg passing away moment, right? They should have played Tiny Dancer in the background. It's almost like the same dialogue.
Just indicted by a grand jury in Maryland. Do you have a reaction to that?
I didn't know that. You told me for the first time, but I
didn't know that. Wow. You're telling me this for the first time. Yes, John Bolton was indicted. And if he was hoping that CNN analysts and Democrats and media talking heads would all come to his aid and say that this is all trumped up and this is revenge and there's no crime there and he's innocent and yeah, these charges should be dropped. This is not serious. This is outrageous. He's going to be sorely disappointed because actually he had quite the opposite. We're going to show you all the CNN analysts and all of the details behind this indictment that shows that this is super serious and it's going to end in either a conviction or maybe a plea deal. That's my prediction right now. And the most devastating analysis from CNN against John Bolton coming up here is from John Bolton. We'll show you that in a second. First, though, some of the details of this indictment, what John Bolton did with classified information according to the indictment, and what some of the legal analysts have said about it.
From our Caitlin Polans, who has been reporting on the possible indictment of John Bolton, the former national security advisor for President Trump in his first term. Caitlin, what do we know?
Casey, John Bolton, the former national security advisor to Donald Trump, a longtime federal government official, has been indicted by a grand jury. We are learning that through two different sources from our producer, Hannah Rabinowitz at the Justice Department. And we have confirmed that the grand jury was in today with the lead prosecutor on that case, the same prosecutor who had been on some of the documents of the search of Bolton's house just 2 months ago, or not even 2 months ago, a prosecutor who also has some experience in investigating these sorts of things. He was a prosecutor that was also working on the Biden classified documents handling investigation that led to no charges. But in this situation, the bulk of this case, it's been going on for several years, and our understanding is that it's about John Bolton's use of an email account with AOL, an email account where he was writing diary-like notes and summaries of his time as national security advisor to himself, at times even sending them to his wife and daughter. And that is the sort of thing that the Justice Department does say frequently, not just in the climate of a Trump administration, that that's something that you should not do. We have seen many charges like this before of other high-ranking officials, and that also with John Bolton in those search warrants, and what we're very likely to see in court going forward is that the Justice Department saying he should have known better.
Yeah, he sure should have known better. In fact, as I said, his own analysis on CNN with regard to the handling of classified documents sort of undermines his ability to go into court and said, I had no idea that this was a problem. Nobody ever told me. Of course, he's been told. In fact, anybody who works for the federal government who gets clearances to handle classified documents, they go through rigorous training and sign multiple documents acknowledging what the law is. And one of the things that everybody is advised to do is not keep handwritten notes in a diary like Bolton is alleged to have done here, specifically detailing classified information. Why? Because that can fall into the hands of our enemies. That's why. In fact, part of the indictment suggests that when Bolton was working for the government and it appeared that people outside of the authorized personnel to have certain classified information had that information, and our intelligence community recognized that these people had it, they informed people within the government and said, hey, there's a leak here somewhere. Somebody's been loose with this classified information or sharing it. Bolton knew that he had shared that information at the time in real time, and he kept his mouth shut and didn't say anything to investigators. This is bad for John Bolton. Super duper, really, really bad. And if you're expecting people to come on television and say, well, you know, the only reason that Bolton's being indicted is because he's John Bolton, he's been critical of Donald Trump. Well, there was one outlier. One person did try to make that argument. I'll show you, and then we'll blow it out of the water in a second. If anything, the opposite is true. The fact that John Bolton hasn't been indicted and wasn't indicted by the Biden administration is because he was John Bolton and critical of Trump. The politics worked to protect John Bolton up until now. Here's the scene outside his very Tony Bethesda home this morning as he surrendered himself to federal authorities. We said we wanted a perp walk with Comey, and we were denied. Well, here's the closest thing we're going to get to a perp walk. New York Post, that's not satisfying enough. That's not a perp walk. That's like a perp Uber. Although it is a government vehicle. It had Virginia plates. Bolton lives in Maryland. But going into a Chevy Suburban and driving out of his driveway, and that's unsatisfying. How about when he arrived at the courthouse? Okay, now you're talking. Now you're talking perp walk, right? Okay, let's see it.
Ambassador Bolton, do you have any comments, sir? We read your statement last night. Any comments?
There you go. Going into the federal courthouse to make his plea. No cuffs, but a perp walk nonetheless. Does he have a statement? Asked the reporter, shouting from the sidewalk. Actually, we have his statement. He just released it about 15 minutes ago. We'll show it to you. First, a little bit from the indictment. This is my favorite part. These are like teenage girls in a group chat. Okay. On or about July 23rd, 2018. That's when John Bolton was, in fact, working for the Trump administration. This is not stuff post his time as national security advisor. Like when he had a grudge against Trump, or at least a public grudge against Trump. He had a grudge against Trump even when he took the job that Trump offered him as the national security advisor. But this is in the middle of it. On or about July 23rd, 2018, Bolton sent individuals 1 and 2 a message that stated, "More stuff coming!" 3 exclamation points. A few minutes later, Bolton sent individuals 1 and 2 a 24-page document which described information that Bolton learned while national security advisor. Less than 3 hours later, Bolton sent individuals 1 and 2 a follow-up message that stated, "None of which we talk about!" 3 exclamation points. What, honestly, is he a teenage girl? Okay, here's the stuff I'm going to give you. 24-page document is attached, but we don't talk about these things. Well, that shows foreknowledge of the fact that this was classified and this was against the law. He was admonishing people that he was texting or emailing that he didn't want them to say anything about it. He's acting like someone who doesn't realize that anything you put out there is accessible by very sophisticated adversaries of the American government. What a dolt, Ambassador Dalton. In response, individual 1 sent a message that stated, "Shh." Oh my God, did you get the new track from the T-Swift album? It's amazing. Shh. Who are these losers? Individual 2 then sent a message that stated, "The only interesting thing is what senior U.S. government official might have said from foreign language interpreter, which you didn't tell us." So now they're complaining that the information that Bolton is sharing that is top secret and classified isn't juicy enough for them. Approximately 2 minutes later, individual 1 sent a message in response that stated, "More to come with Cloak and Dagger," or something, so he says. So they're mocking him openly about the content that he's delivering to them. I want to know who these people are. Are they members of the media? Are they reporters? Are they political adversaries? Is it Adam Schiff? I would love for all that to be revealed.
You know, Larry, it's hard to overstate how humiliating it is to leak classified national security information and it not be good enough.
Right, exactly. He can't even do that right, Kevin. And by the way, have we pointed out that he was using an AOL account on a lot of this stuff? That's pretty humiliating, too. This is what happens when boomers try to leak. Here's my AOL. They got to change, "You've got mail," to "You're going to jail." Meanwhile, as I mentioned, Mr. Bolton has put out a statement now. This just came out. I look forward to the fight to defend my lawful conduct and to expose Trump's abuse of power. Here, watch the whole thing.
Bolton says, "I have become the latest target in weaponizing the Justice Department to charge those he deems to be his enemies with charges that were declined before or distort the facts. My book was reviewed and approved by the appropriate experienced career clearance officials. When my email was hacked in 2021, the FBI was made fully aware. John Bolton continues, in 4 years of the prior administration, after these reviews, no charges were ever filed. Then came Trump 2, he says, who embodies what Joseph Stalin's head of secret police once said, you show me the man and I'll show you the crime. John Bolton's statement ends, these charges are not just about his focus on me or my diaries, but his intensive effort to intimidate his opponents, to ensure that he alone determines what is said about his conduct. Dissent and disagreement are foundational to America's constitutional system and vitally important to our freedom. I look forward to the fight to defend my lawful conduct and to expose Trump's abuse of power. Jake?
All right. So a couple of things that are noteworthy in that statement. Number one, he didn't deny that he did the things that the indictment said he did. Did you notice that? All he said was, oh, I did these things, but it was all lawful. So in other words, the U.S. attorney and the grand jury who handed down the indictments, they don't understand the law the way I understand the law. Okay. Good luck with that. But that statement right there sort of undermines any kind of defense that he might be able to put forward, suggesting that he, in fact, didn't do what is alleged in the indictment that he did, which would have been a pretty good defense. Make the prosecutors actually prove that you did those things. I mean, it's one way to defend yourself, I suppose. But instead, he's just deciding, oh, no, you're just wrong about the law. It was totally lawful what I did. Well, that should make it easy for a sitting jury to determine whether he's guilty or not. I don't think it's going to get to a guilty. I do think that he'll plea out. I think he's going to have to plead guilty to this for a lesser penalty. Let's see. Meanwhile, as I mentioned, one guy decided to step forward and said, this is outrageous. The only reason John Bolton's getting prosecuted is because he criticized Donald Trump. One person. Who? Jamie Raskin, of all people.
It's hard to know what to say about this other than there is no way that had Bolton not broken with Donald Trump, he would be facing these charges today. In other words, he's going to have a very strong claim of selective and vindictive prosecution because it's only being brought because he said that Donald Trump was, melting before Vladimir Putin, was constantly mixing government business with personal money-making business, and so on. I mean, he wrote a whole book saying if Trump were to be elected again, the second term would be far worse than the first term. And so there's no doubt that revenge is being exacted against him for those kinds of statements.
Well, you see. Okay. Couple things about that. Sure, he could make the case that this is just a selective prosecution because he's been critical of the president. But do you know what that's not? That's not a denial of wrongdoing. But basically, it's, well, sure, I broke the law, but the only reason they're prosecuting me is because I criticized Trump. Well, okay, that's fine. Two things can be true at once. But that first part is pretty important. Yes, you broke the law. See, Jamie Raskin didn't defend him on his conduct or on his behavior. That wasn't a defense of John Bolton at all. It was just an attack on Trump and the administration as to who they decide to prosecute and who do they decide to let free with this kind of behavior. But the fact of the matter is, all the people involved here, whether they get prosecuted or whether let free, they all have one thing in common, and that is they broke the law. And by all those people, well, let me just fill in the blanks that Jamie Raskin didn't fill in for you. There's a lot of people who have been guilty of mishandling of classified information, but not all of them get prosecuted. One person, other than John Bolton, did, well, have an attempted prosecution with charges levied against him. It was Donald Trump. Difference is Donald Trump is the president of the United States. So the rules with regard to his possession of classified documents, even after the presidency, is very different than somebody like John Bolton. But Trump did have charges filed against him that eventually were thrown out or overturned or sent back to the court by the Supreme Court. There are other people who have mishandled classified documents and they never face charges at all. Names that come to mind, Hillary Clinton. Also, former advisor of Bill Clinton, Sandy Berger. You remember that story where he went to the National Archives, got some documents pertaining to the Clinton administration's handling of the investigation of Osama bin Laden, stuffed them in his pants and his socks, was caught leaving the archives with those documents, and there were never any charges pressed against him. He never went to jail either. You see how it works? So Jamie Raskin's making the case that, listen, he may have done this, but the only reason he's facing charges is because Trump is mad at him, which may be true. But as soon as you make the case in court, sure, I did it just like other people did it, but everybody else got away with it and only I'm getting prosecuted, you're kind of admitting that you're guilty. You know how I know that to be the case? Do you know how I know that this is a serious, serious crime that really does deserve prosecution? Do you know how I know? Well, because I've heard from this guy right here, the one with the epic looking mustache. This is John Bolton's opinion of Donald Trump's handling of classified documents.
Will have to prove it, then he has committed very serious crimes. This is a devastating indictment. I speak here as an alumnus of the Justice Department myself, because not only is it powerful, it's very narrowly tailored. They didn't throw everything up against the wall to see what would stick. This really is a rifle shot, and I think it should be the end of Donald Trump's political career.
Oh, but it wasn't, was it? In fact, he's president now, and, well, I guess you know that by now, don't you, John? More from that guy.
You know, Republicans used to believe that not prosecuting criminals led to more crime. The answer here is take the politics out of the decision, and in this case, proceed with the prosecution and do the same for anybody else who does anything even remotely like it.
I'm sorry. What was that last part? Take the politics out of it, prosecute the crime, and what was that last part?
Anybody else who does anything even remotely like it.
Anybody else that does anything remotely like it. You know, like, for instance, John Bolton. Dude.
Just read the indictment and ask yourself, if the government can prove what they allege here, shouldn't this man go to jail? The simple fact he had the documents for any reason or no reason should subject him to prosecution.
Yeah, well, listen, we agree with him. That's some pretty good analysis there. Hard to argue with it. You know, even better than that analysis from this guy is this analysis from this guy.
Well, I think it's a devastating indictment. It's very powerful in the way that it's portrayed, but it's also very narrow, very targeted. The government didn't throw everything in the kitchen sink at the wall. It has focused this in a way that I think, as a matter of law, is going to be very difficult for the president to resist. I think the real question is the question of timing and scheduling. You know, if Donald Trump were an honest man, if he were an innocent man, he'd be saying, I want the trial within 30 days. I want this cloud removed from over my head. I want this stain on my reputation removed. So we'll wait and see what Donald Trump does. I think he'll try and postpone it to after the 2024 election. So my suggestion to Jack Smith and the Justice Department is go lean on the Manhattan District Attorney and get him to move his trial until after the election. This trial should take precedence. We'll find out whether Alvin Bragg is a real prosecutor or a political hack. The answer...
Oh, it's delicious, isn't it? By the way, let's remember those words. If he were a real man and if he were really innocent, he would press for a speedy trial. Let's see if John Bolton and his lawyers do the same, shall we? And we'll hold John Bolton up to a new thing we're going to refer to as the John Bolton standard. All right. Despite all of that, though, we found a guy who was really, really obsessed with Trump's handling of classified documents, somebody who was truly devoted to the laws pertaining to the mishandling of classified documents and how important and serious these crimes are. And we found a guy who really wanted to throw the book of Donald Trump when it came to classified documents. You might recognize him. His name is John Bolton.
The president had a habit of asking to retain sensitive documents. And from time to time, he did that, and we didn't know what happened to them. And it was always a concern that because he didn't really fully understand the risks to sources and methods, and other dangers of revealing classified information, that it might get out to the wrong people.
And of course, in this case, John Bolton retained handwritten notes about classified documents, shared them on unsecured devices and platforms, and they got into the hands of the wrong people. They also got into the hands of the right people, FBI investigators. And then they got transmitted to another set of people known as a grand jury, and they handed down an indictment. And now he's been perp walked and turned himself into authorities, and we await his trial. It's bad for John Bolton right now. A devastating, devastating indictment. And I truly do believe, and listen, I don't like to throw hopium at you. I am shocked if anybody on their side of the political spectrum ever has any accountability or repercussions for their wrongdoing, because, well, I've been around long enough to see how this game is played. But this one, especially against a guy who, let's face it, the only reason the left and Democrats and the media have embraced him in recent years is because he's been a Trump critic. But historically, they hated this guy. When he worked for Bush and was in favor of the war on terror, he was Satan. They couldn't stand him. You think they're going to go to the mat for this guy? I think this is going to end in an indictment or in a plea deal. And, well, I guess the big question right now for all of us is, who else is going to get indicted? Stay tuned. If you care about staying sharp and informed, make The Lion part of your daily routine. Published by the Herzog Foundation, The Lion covers headlines that matter, from politics and policy to culture and faith, all through a common-sense, values-driven lens. It's the kind of journalism that goes beyond the surface, offering the context and clarity today's news demands. Whether you're tracking big national stories or you want to know what's happening in schools, state houses, and communities across the country, The Lion delivers smart, well-sourced reporting you're not going to find anywhere else. Visit readlion.com to catch up on the latest must-read stories and sign up for The Lion's daily and weekly newsletters while you're there. That's readlion.com, news that informs and respects your worldview. Well, last night in Virginia, it was the debate between the two candidates for Attorney General, the incumbent Republican Jason Miyares and the Democrat challenger, Jay Jones. Jay Jones, a man who, well, used to be a member of the House of Delegates, has a law license for sure, but has actually never prosecuted a case by himself, and a man who famously was caught with reckless driving and excessive speeding, going 116 in a 50-mile-per-hour zone, was sentenced to 1,000 hours community service, and he spent 500 of those hours doing community service to his own political action committee, and a man who we've now learned sent text messages to a colleague in the House of Delegates fantasizing about the murder of the Speaker, a Republican at the time, and the murder of his two children and police officers, murders that would help him advance his political policies. That's why he wanted those people murdered, hypothetically. And of course, not one Democrat in America holding elected office or running for elected office has withdrawn their endorsement of Jay Jones. That's where things stand right now in that race. And it's become a bit of a bellwether for politics in America right now. Election day is just a little over 2 weeks away. We want to show you how this debate went, because Jay Jones, well, he came with quite an interesting strategy. Basically, he said, yeah, sure, I did all those things and it's bad, but here's the deal. If you elect me, I'll be like Letitia James. I'll be like Fani Willis. I'm going to prosecute Trump. Vote for me. Forget about all that other stuff. Forget about law and order in Virginia. Forget about all the illegal immigrant gang members who are murdering and raping. Forget about all the pedophiles in Virginia and the carjackings in Virginia. Elect me your attorney general, and I'll get Trump. You think I'm overstating the case? Let's watch the debate.
Why should voters trust your judgment moving forward?
Well, look, Brett, I want to say one thing. Jason Miyares can't prosecute a case against Donald Trump, that's for sure. And I will also say this. I was held accountable by my party, and I deeply, deeply respect that. But what about when Donald Trump used incendiary language to incite a riot to try to overturn an election here in this country? What about when Winsome Sears used violent language about people who disagree with you and her and your extreme position on abortion? What about when John Reed shared Nazi porn? You haven't said a word. I've taken accountability for my mistakes. It's time you take accountability too.
And let me ask you just one more time, Delegate Jones, just so we're clear and the voters understand, why do you think they should trust your judgment based upon these two events that we've discussed?
I've taken accountability for my mistakes, and I know that people in Virginia right now demand and deserve leaders who accept when they make mistakes and can acknowledge that and have been held accountable. This job right now demands someone who will hold Donald Trump accountable. For the last 9 months, Jason's had 50 chances to sue the administration to protect us, to protect our workers, to protect our health care, to protect our K-12 funding for law enforcement. And his office hasn't done a thing because he's too weak and too scared to stand up to the president.
All right.
Yeah, thank you, Walter Kurt, there at the Political Theater for the clip. But you saw the messaging, right? First of all, it's remarkable. Jay Jones kept saying, I took accountability and I've been held accountable. How exactly? How? You're still in the race. You're still raising money. You still could potentially be the attorney general. Nobody has withdrawn their endorsement of you. I've been held accountable because I got 2 weeks of really bad press and people have asked me really hard questions. And I've dropped in the polls. See, I've been held accountable. That's not accountability. And by the way, did you notice that the question was asked once and then the moderator had to follow up? The question was not, were you held accountable? The question was not, will you prosecute Trump? The question was not anything about anything else. And by the way, if you had Nazi porn on your bingo card, well, you really did win. I wasn't expecting that one, whatever the hell he was talking about. The question was, why should voters trust your judgment given these things that you have done? And he never answered that question. The answer to every question in this debate last night was Trump. I mean, it may work. That's the problem, because this is all we've heard from Democrats for the last 10 years. That's all they've got. But did you hear that one thing? Jason Miyares refuses to sue Trump. He's an attorney general, and he won't sue Trump. He's Trump's guy. He's Trump's this, Trump that, and I'll go after Trump and Trump. Well, Jason Miyares had a really interesting response to that. Watch.
First, even when it conflicted with the national Republican priorities. You have 2 minutes.
Virginians, I ask you to all go on Wavy TV 10, NBC affiliate, that did a truth tracker on Jay Jones' false ad. And his ad alleging what he's saying about myself, they rated it as false. Why? Because I call balls and strikes. The reality, I've sued both administrations, the Trump administration and the Biden administration.
I mean, we'll let this clip play out because it's really strong. And I want you to see, because sadly, too much of this race has been about Jay Jones and what a pathetic jerk he is. Jason Miyares is a rising star, a child of Cuban immigrants. He's been a very effective attorney general for Virginia. And the best part of this whole thing is he won't go after Trump. He won't go after Trump. Jason Miyares is like, I literally sued the Trump administration. I literally did. Yeah, I mean, he can't make it up. All right, so watch this, because he really does deserve your attention.
I have sued to protect our veterans and their GI benefits. I've always put Virginians first. But the reality is, Jay Jones is not a prosecutor. He is a politician. He wants to turn this into a political office. The largest division in the Attorney General's office is the criminal division. And every day, I work to make Virginians more safe, more prosperous. That's been our mission. He wants to fight the fights in Washington. My interest is fighting the fights and putting the bad guys away out of our streets. That has been our record. That was my promise to you. This office is an executive office. If Jay Jones wants to fight the fights in Washington, he should run for Congress. But he's running for the wrong office. He's asking you to hire him to be the top prosecutor. And I have to make this observation. He keeps saying that he is sorry. Jay, if you're really sorry, you wouldn't be running. If you really understood the ramifications of what you said about an innocent mom and her children, you know Todd Gilbert. You served with him. Jennifer would come to the General Assembly. She would bring her children. We would see them run in the hallways. They were 2 and 5 years old at the time. This wasn't a hypothetical. This wasn't some figure that you know from far away. You actually know Todd. This is a flesh and blood, real husband. Jennifer is a real mom. These are real kids. How in the world could you ever show compassion and comfort a grieving mother that has ever lost a child to violence. Because, Virginians, there is no cry like the cry of a mother that has lost her child. A prosecutor knows this because they stood in that courtroom. Jay Jones has never understood this because he's not a prosecutor. He's a politician trying to save his career.
Delegate Jones, along those same lines, do you believe that Attorney General Miyares has placed alignment with President Trump's national agenda over the interests of Virginia? And if you do, please be as specific as you can where you think that has occurred. You have 90 seconds.
Well, he's talking a lot about prosecuting cases, but he can't seem to prosecute a case against Donald Trump to save his life. He mentioned one, and that is respectable.
Okay, fine. He mentioned one. By the way, what a great question from the moderator there, huh? No political bias built into that question. Whew. But that was powerful, and that was important, and it was really well done by Jason Miyares specifically about those horrendous text messages. And the fact is, like, you know this guy. You met his wife. You met their children. They've been running around the halls of the House of Delegates. What the hell is wrong with you, you despicable, evil monster? Okay, he didn't add that last part, but he should have. And then later in the debate, Miyares confronted Jay Jones directly on this stuff. Remember that incredible moment in the governor's debate when Winsome Sears turned to Abigail Spanberger and wanted her to address this issue. And Spanberger just sat there creepy and silent, I mean, like menacing silent, because she didn't know how to respond. She didn't know what to say, or she knew what to say, but she couldn't say what she wanted to say. Because what she really wanted to say was, yeah, well, screw Republicans. They do deserve 2 bullets in the head. But her handlers advised her not to do so. Well, Miyares addressed Jay Jones directly as well.
Right now, you may say that you are sorry, but look back at what happened. You had 3 years to say you're sorry, Jay, and you didn't. 3 years to actually recognize what you did was horrific. You chose to stay silent. Carrie Cornier called you out then. You doubled down. It was after she called you out for these text messages that is when you said you advocated for violence against children. And when this became public, we now know your first statement wasn't saying I'm sorry. The words I'm sorry wasn't even in your statement. It was to say we all send text messages we regret. You attacked the president and you attacked me.
There's more here, and I want to share as much as I can, so watch this.
Of Virginia. And let's be clear. There's a reason why the Fraternal Order Police, the PBA, and every single major law enforcement association in the state of Virginia has not just endorsed me, Jay. They've said you need to drop out. And I find it a little bit stunning that today you say one of the pillars of your public safety platform is protecting children. Were you protecting Jennifer's children when you said you wanted to see them die in their mother's arms? How can anybody who's ever worked in any of the crimes against children, all of the areas of federal and state local law department, how can they ever take you seriously, be the top prosecutor, knowing that you view that children should die to advance a political agenda? It's unconscionable, and if you were truly sorry, you would not be running for this office because you disqualified yourself.
Yeah, well done there. And one more, this one specifically on that reckless driving charge and the fact that Jay Jones, who wants to be the Attorney General of the Commonwealth of Virginia, got off with less than a slap on the wrist. You see, other people who are arrested in the same week or month going even less fast over the speed limit. You know, he was going 116. There were people who were arrested doing 90, 95, who ended up losing their license and going to jail, but not Jay Jones. No, that gifted, amazing, anointed individual who we should all be just thrilled that he walks amongst us. He's so special. He got 1,000 hours community service, half of which he served at his own political action group. Well, Miyares laid that out there about how this disqualifies him from being Attorney General. It even disqualifies him from getting a job in the Attorney General's office.
Based on the incident involving Mr. Jones, how would you define the line between protected, albeit inappropriate, political speech and a communication that is legally prohibited? And you can address Mr. Jones's position as well. You have 90 seconds.
The reality is that Jay Jones was in court for going 116 miles an hour on Interstate 64. 4 people were in court that day, were going roughly the same speed. 3 of those 4 people got suspended or active jail sentence. But Jay Jones is a politician, and he asked the court not to give him any of that, to give him community service. And instead, we now know he misled the court. That community service, it wasn't done for a charity. It was done for his own political action committee that he controlled. And the reality, Jay, is that your text messages that advocated for violence against innocent children, Jay, if you were to apply to be a line prosecutor in not just my office, any attorney general office in the country, you would not pass a background check. And right now, you may say that you are sorry, but look back at what happened. You had 3 years to say you're sorry, Jay, and you didn't. 3 years to actually recognize what you did was horrific. You chose to stay silent. Carrie Cornier called you out then. You doubled down. It was after she called you out for these text messages that is when you said you advocated for violence against children.
All right. And you've already seen the rest of that clip, but it's very, very strong stuff. So we've been writing this news cycle for quite some time, and we've been sharing a lot about this election, not just because it's in our backyard here at the studios for our program, but also because this is a bellwether indicator about where politics happens to be in America right now. Historically, in Virginia and in New Jersey, the party that just lost last year's election ends up doing well. It's what happened in 2021, 4 years ago, when Joe Biden won the presidency. And the next year, for the first time in quite some time, Republicans swept into statewide office in Virginia, winning the governor's race with Youngkin, the lieutenant governor's race with Winsome Earl-Series, who's now running for governor, and winning the attorney general's race with this man, Jason Miyares. So it is important. So where do things stand? After everything that we've seen in the news for the last couple of weeks with this remarkable governor's candidate, Abigail Spanberger, who won't give a straight answer on illegal immigration and ICE and whether she would allow law enforcement to cooperate with ICE. She won't give a straight answer on transgender policies in the schools, something that she's voted on. She's in favor of men going into little girls' rooms and exposing themselves to girls against their consent. And of course, she is completely silent about the J. Jones violent text message. After all of that, where do things stand now? And bear in mind, Abigail Spanberger had a 17-point lead in the polls as recently as May. Where do things stand? Well, here's the latest poll from Trafalgar. And yes, Trafalgar is a Republican-leaning pollster. True, but they also nailed the 2021 election, like nailed it within a couple of tenths of percentage points. They poll Virginia better than any other polling group I've seen because notoriously the establishment pollsters in Virginia undercount Republicans. Trafalgar has models and statistical analysis that better represents Republican voters. So Trafalgar's latest poll. For governor, Spanberger, she's got a 2-point lead. That's within the margin of error. 6.4%, not sure. Attorney General Jason Miyares is now catapulted in the lead. He was 5 points down about 6 weeks ago. He's now 5 points up and almost hitting the 50% mark, 49.5 to 44.6. Lieutenant governor, upstart, first-time politician. Actually, he was a talk radio host. John Reed from Richmond. He's in a dead heat with lunatic state assembly member Ghazala Hashmi, 46.2 to 46.1. That's devastating. And that's all the polls showing that trend. Some polls show it a little bit wider of a margin. This is the closest one we've seen, but all polls show this trend 2.5 weeks out from election day. Do you know how desperate the Democrats are in Virginia right now? Do you want to see the panic button that they've just pushed? Look at their latest endorsement ad for Abigail Spanberger. This guy.
Virginia's elections are some of the most important in the country this year, and I am proud to endorse Abigail Spanberger for governor. Republican policies are raising costs on working families so billionaires can get massive tax cuts. As governor, Abigail will stand up for Virginia families. She'll work to build an economy that works for everyone, not just big corporations and the wealthy. But it won't happen without you. Every vote counts, so turn out and vote for Abigail Spanberger for governor on November 4th.
Wow, he seemed really thrilled and excited and happy to do this, didn't he? Also, by the way, he doesn't have a real great track record of swooping in at the last minute and endorsing candidates, does he? I mean, the last high-profile endorsement he gave was he put his entire personality, credibility, and legacy on the line to endorse Kamala Harris, and that did not end well. I also want to just fact check this real fast, because there's something about this race and the New Jersey race that we'll get to in a second, and the New York City governor's race, or mayor's race, which is really driving me nuts as a political analyst, as an American, as somebody with a functioning, logical brain. Because all three of these races, they're using this buzzword, affordability. We're going to make things affordable. Zohran Mamdani is going to make New York City affordable. Okay, dude, Abigail Spanberger is going to make things affordable. Watch this ad with me and see if you see what I see.
Virginia's elections are some of the most important in the country this year, and I am proud to endorse Abigail Spanberger for governor. Republican policies are raising costs on...
All right, hold on. Look at the graphic there. He's talking about Republican policies raising prices on things, making things more expensive, okay? And what do they give as evidence? Trump tariffs push costs higher. Now, first of all, there's no actual economic evidence to suggest that. In fact, most of the headlines I've seen in economic analysis of the tariffs suggest it's the opposite. The tariffs haven't made a difference. We've talked about that on the show, but let's take for granted that this is a fact. Let's just take for granted that Trump's tariffs are pushing costs higher, okay? Now, watch the next one.
Working families so billionaires can get massive tax cuts.
Trump's tax law will mostly benefit the rich, okay? You see the pattern here? Okay, go ahead.
As governor, Abigail will stand up for Virginia families.
Right, okay. Can someone explain to constitutional law genius Barack Obama, who apparently has never seen Schoolhouse Rock before, exactly what a state governor is going to be able to do about Trump's tariff policies and Congress's federal tax policies? I'll give you the answer. Nothing. A governor has nothing to say about that. So even if you buy the premise that things are more expensive because of tariff policies and tax policies, a governor can literally do nothing about it. The only thing a governor can do to make things more affordable for the people in her or his state is to lower taxes, something Abigail Spanberger refuses to do. In fact, she will raise taxes. She will also put policies out there that will make energy costs higher, one thing that a governor can do something about. Her opponent, ironically, has policies that will make energy cheaper in Virginia, and she's going to eliminate the car tax, which will make things more affordable in Virginia. So in other words, Abigail Spanberger knows that this focus group tested word affordability is really important right now, but she literally has no policies will affect it in any way whatsoever. And this ad belies that fact. It's maddening, and it makes no sense. You know how bad things are for Abigail Spanberger and for her counterpart, Mikey Sherrill, running basically in the Abigail Spanberger costume up in New Jersey to be governor. This is how bad things are. Here's Hakeem Jeffries endorsing them and using them as great examples of the mojo and power behind the Democrats right now.
And there are opportunities to volunteer in different ways as it relates to Abigail Spanberger's gubernatorial campaign in Virginia and Mikey Spanberger's gubernatorial campaign in New Jersey.
God, he is a gifted politician, isn't he? Mikey Spanberger. I mean, he confuses them. I guess the awfuls, you know, the affluent white female liberals, they all look alike to Hakeem Jeffries. They're all Spanbergers. It's Mikey Sherrill. How do I know the Democrat candidate better than Hakeem Jeffries does? That's embarrassing. Oh, speaking of New Jersey, the latest poll there, she's toast. This is the Insider Advantage poll that got released this week. Ciccarelli, the Republican, sitting at 43% right now. Sherrill down to 37%. She's toast. She's absolute toast, and it's a beautiful thing. And that's where the trends are. Political analysts will tell you that in the final weeks of a campaign, if there is a wave, if there is a tide, if there is a momentum in one direction, you want to be with that momentum, not spending all your time pushing back against that momentum. Right now, Abigail Spanberger, desperately clinging to Barack Obama and propping him out there against his will, looked like a hostage video, saying, please say something about me, say something good about me. That, my friend, is not the side of the political tide you want to be on in the final days of a campaign. Understand something. Abigail Spanberger has been presenting herself as a moderate centrist this entire time. She wants to win in an arguably bluish purple state by saying, you don't have to fear me. I'm not a crazy radical left-wing Democrat. I'm a moderate conservative Democrat. You can trust me. I won't go crazy. And at the last minute, you bring in the community organizer, Barack Obama, to save your butt. You are screwed. That is it for today's Friday show. Thank you so much for watching. That was a blast. I hope you had a good time. Don't forget to like this video. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss a show, because we'll be back Monday with even more. And let's get right to your super chats. What do you got for me, Kevin? Stumble Boots. Thank you for that $2 super chat. You, Clippy, are also cool. Thank you for that. Jeff Depew Sr., $2 super chat. I like the t-shirt, Larry. Do you like my t-shirt?
All right.
Sorry.
This ain't some minstrel show.
Minstrel? I don't think you're using that term correctly. I like it. It does not come in blue, but you can get it at store.townhallmedia.com. Is it store or shop? Right there on the banner. Right there on the bottom of your screen. You want to go to, do I have to do it? There it is. Store.townhallmedia.com. It comes in gray. They call it heather over there on the site. It comes in white. It comes in black. And it comes in red. It does not come in blue. I'm sorry. I think because we associate blue with Democrats. I associate blue with Michigan and Navy. Thank you, Jeff, for the $2 super chat. Epic Beard, my friend. Lady Cop, $2 super chat. Larry, you are so smart and witty. My hero. Aw. Well, cops are my heroes, so it's mutual. Thank you, Lady Cop. Appreciate it. And Jeff Depew Sr., $2 super chat. Congress's paycheck should be tied to any shutdown. Yeah, but they're so independently wealthy that I don't know if it'll make a difference. But thank you, sir, for the thought. All right, that's it for today. Get yourself a shirt. Get yourself a mug. Get yourself, yes, I think J.D. Weatherly is correct. You meant burlesque show, not minstrel show.
Yeah, I fact-checked myself, and I was wrong.
And thank you for the $4.99 super chat. Yeah, no minstrel shows here. Don't get me canceled on something stupid like that.
I've apologized and taken full accountability.
Full accountability. You should drop out of the race. And by the way, I want you to take the next 2 days off, Kevin.
Wow.
Because of that.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for watching today. We'll be back on Monday. That's the day I'm thinking of. In the meantime, my name's Larry O'Connor. You can call me Larry.